In less than a week now, I'm going to be turning 60. And I've been thinking about that one for a while. I've never been one much into birthday milestones. 30, 40, 50 just kind of went by like that. Never even gave them a second thought. But 60 just like has this sound to it. And let me just say first, before I even get into the video, that you do not have to tell me all the platitudes that people say. I hate that stuff. Oh, age is just a number. You're only as old as you feel. Blah blah blah. I jokingly refer to myself as old sometimes, but not necessarily joking. I mean, in the scheme of things, I am old. Doesn't mean I'm ancient, but people get triggered by that because I think they have a problem with age. I don't have a problem with it. It's just I got to figure some things out for this last third or last quarter of life that's coming up. Because I've had an odd life, and it kind of makes it a little bit tricky, kind of figuring out things going forward. Because as most of you know, if you've watched my channel before, and if you've been following for a while, you've probably heard me say before, I've never been married. I don't have kids. I was a drunk for 30 years, which made me very irresponsible. So I never really completely grew up. I never completely matured. Definitely don't have the maturity level of a 60-year-old. And it kind of left me where I'm not even really comfortable. I wouldn't say I'm not comfortable. It's just I feel awkward around people my age. I feel awkward around people a lot of times that are 20 years younger than me because they're serious people. You know, they've done the whole thing. They've raised kids. They've had mortgages. They've had this, this life of responsibility. I haven't. And I've been thinking lately, I've got to make some changes. I got into a bad rut here when I came back to the United States. And, I mean, I kind of give myself a little bit of slack on that for the first few years because, my mother was getting older. She had to go into a nursing home, and I was in basically my hometown where I didn't know anybody anymore. And even the year before I came back to the United States, I had lived in I lived in Costa Rica 18 years prior, but the last year I was in Costa Rica, I watched this property on a mountain. So starting in about, I would say, June, July of 2016, I have had very little contact with people, or I wouldn't say contact with people, but I've had very little actual conversation with people. When I was in the little town where I was previously, where I'm from, I basically had no conversation there. At least here now, I have my roommate. My roommate's somebody who he grew up in the same hometown as me. We were college roommates. He's got three grown kids right now, and I've probably had, I would say, just having lived here the past 2.5 years, I've had 90% of the conversation I've had in the last 8 years with him. And I've always been kind of a loner, but it does something to your head when you spend a very excessive amount of time by yourself without conversation, without using your brain, going back and forth with people. And I just realized, that was my life. That was my home back in Costa Rica. So I've started kind of saying, okay, well, you got to set the ground. You've got to lay the groundwork. You can't just, keep talking about eventually going back or going on to somewhere else. I mean, I'm not like totally like laser vision. Got to go back to Costa Rica. I mean, I'm open. Any friends in Colombia? Well, I've always kind of had my own Colombia. Europe. Europe's a little bit more expensive than those places. But anyhow, I'm kind of going to start working on a plan. It's still kind of coming together, but I'm looking to get out of here, get out of the States again, and get back to wherever I'm going to be. I would say in the first half of 2025. I'm not saying by 2025. I'm not saying by a certain date, but I'm looking more in the first half. And that just kind of means me, like I say, laying that groundwork and doing some things that I've been doing online, but that I've just kind of just not been putting a lot of focus on, not been putting a lot of effort into as far as kind of income and stuff. Also start putting out some feelers and look for some, possible opportunities in Costa Rica. As far as like, I'd like to make video, I'd like to work, I'd like to do some collaborations. I'd like to find just anybody I could collaborate with down there. But I'm just in general open to opportunities. Listen to anything that comes your way. Yeah, I've got to do that, and I have to start. Another thing about having so much time by yourself and living in the situation I've been living in is I've gotten into some very bad habits, and I have no routine, and I need to do that. I need to establish myself instead of just willy-nilly doing some work here, doing some work there. I need to establish a daily routine. I need to like almost kind of act like I have a schedule, starting first thing in the morning. But like I say, a lot of it involves me just doing some of the things that I've been working on, and actually putting that effort into it. But yeah, 60. That's a crazy one. Sometimes I think about things like music. There was some music in a little coffee shop I was in the other day, and they were playing music from the 80s. And I started thinking, like, that was the 80s. When you think of the 80s, it doesn't seem, when I say the 80s, it doesn't seem that far ago. Not for me anyway. But then you start thinking, wow, that was 40 years ago, 4 decades ago. And just little things like that all the time. Anyhow, I am happy. I'm grateful for where I am at 60, because health-wise, I'm no super athlete, and I don't think anybody's going to like put me on a pedestal as a specimen of health and fitness. But I'm good for my age. I can do the things I want to do. I don't shuffle around. I walk with purpose. I walk with speed. Thank God I haven't had any injuries up until this point in my life, that where I have, like aches, too many aches and pains. About the only time I have aches and pains now is when I sleep the wrong way. But, I've got good mobility is what I'm getting at, like my knees. Like I talk to a lot of people my age, and they don't necessarily show it. And then I see them trying to bend down and get something. Knees are gone, back, all that kind of stuff. I can squat down and hang out in a low squat, sitting there and talk to you while I'm doing it. So there's a lot of things I'm grateful for just having made it to 60. Well, I got several more days. Don't want to jinx myself there. Probably the best thing I ever did for myself was when I quit drinking back in 2012, and simultaneously went plant-based, started focusing on my health. I think about that sometimes, like, where would I be had I not, made any change? If I was still drinking like that, I don't even want to think like what my health status, would be right now. Because I did it for 30 years, and then if I was still doing it, you'd be talking about 42 years of being a drunk. And eventually, I think, who knows if by now, some people get lucky. Some people can abuse their body for longer periods of time, but who knows? By now, if I had stayed on that same path, I might be looking at liver problems. I might be looking at, excessive alcohol use. Any alcohol use comes with a risk for cancer. I always used to just think of the drinking for, say, cirrhosis of your liver and other things, but so many cancers are heavily influenced by alcohol as well. So anyhow, like I say, I'm about to shake up the energy a lot. I don't know if it's going to be completely comfortable, because anytime you make a change, especially when you change your core routine or actually try to whip yourself into some routine after not having it, that can be a little uncomfortable in the beginning. But anyhow, if I have no choice, because I finally just started seeing that it's just like year after year. Okay, I'm going to do it later. Okay, I'm going to get something going. Okay, I'll focus on this. And, time's drifting away. At 60, but we can be realistic and say, oh, I'm going to live to 110 or whatever. But, lifespan, and even a good lifespan, 80 years old, 90 years old. But as always, and I'll finish with this, it's not about just getting to a number. I want to continue being healthy. I don't want to be 95 years old and not be able to do anything. I don't want to be 95 years old and be suffering all the time. So anyhow, it will be a new adventure. But oh yeah, too, any of you older people out there, I might share this later on social media. Not today, but I'm going to have to do a little research. Saw something the other day that there's a lot of discounts for seniors. And when I say seniors, over the age of 55, that I had no clue about. Even some grocery stores, restaurants out there, what have you. So something to think about for old folks like me. Anyhow, if you're listening by this point, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you guys always supporting my channel, and I will continue making videos for you. Peace.